The Rebellion of Spartacus was the most well-known slave revolt in history and the last to happen in Rome. From 73 to 71 BCE, this is known as the Third Civil War. Slaves in ancient Rome were treated horribly by their owners and were considered property, not humans. As slaves increased in numbers, revolts were bound to happen. Insert Spartacus, the sign of hope and change. Not much is known about Spartacus's past, aside from him being Thracian. There are many possible speculations among historians regarding his past, often seen as a soldier of Rome, a mercenary, or even fought against Rome. We know he was captured, however that may be, and owned by a man named Lentius Baptius. Baptius saw potential in Spartacus due to his appearance, intelligence, strength, and willpower, that he sent Spartacus to gladiatorial school to train, thus began the wheel of rebellion.
In 73 BCE, Spartacus organized a rebellion at a gladiatorial school with 78 other men. They stole knives and improvised weapons from the kitchen to form an attack and escape the school. Once they had climbed the walls, they retreated to hide on Mount Vesuvius after recruiting 200 more gladiators until they could grow their population. Each new recruit was given basic fighting lessons, and Spartacus's army grew more formidable by the day. The army grew so large, another leader was needed to help Spartacus, and the slaves decided that a man named Chrysis would be a co-ruler. The Romans caught wind, but did not view them as a threat, so they sent minor generals to go fight Spartacus's army. The generals were defeated quickly by his army. From the outcome of his victories, more slaves left their homes to join the rebellion. The Roman Senate now realized that the slave army was a threat and sent two experienced generals to fight them, Publicola and Clodianus. Spartacus wanted to lead his army out of Italy to escape over the Alps, but Chrysis wanted to attack and take over Rome, so he left and took 30,000 men with him. On his way to Rome, Publicola attacked Chrysis while Clodianus attacked Spartacus. Spartacus won his battle, but Chrysis was defeated and killed in battle. Then the Roman generals turned their attention to Spartacus's army, but Spartacus defeated them both. After winning the battle, Spartacus sacrificed 300 captured Romans as a tribute to Chrysis.
After his huge victory, Spartacus inexplicably abandoned his course for the Alps and turned south, marching down the Italian peninsula. The Roman Senate realized their best generals were being defeated one by one, so they appointed a new leader named Crassus. Crassus wanted to end the war quickly and devised a plan to finally defeat Spartacus. Spartacus had marched down to the end of the Bruttium Peninsula to try to sail to Sicily to revive a slave rebellion there. Crassus built a wall around the peninsula, trapping Spartacus and his men, then try and starve them out. Spartacus was finally able to break through the wall with his army. After this, the Senate was so worried that they called in the great generals Pompey and Lucullus to help defeat Spartacus. As Spartacus realized he was being surrounded on three sides, he wanted to show his men that there were two possible outcomes of the inevitable battles: victory or death. He asked for his horse to be brought to him and killed it in front of his army, to visually demonstrate that if they were not victorious in battle, the only other option was dying honorably. This action became an iconic symbol of Spartacus and was talked about for years afterwards.
In the final battle of the Third Civil War, the majority of Spartacus's army broke through Crassus's army, and Spartacus charged directly at Crassus. His wounds were severe, but he continued to fight with full force until he died. Spartacus's death marked the end of the rebellion, though his body was never recovered. As a warning to other Roman slaves not to rebel, 6,000 of the captured slaves from Spartacus's army were crucified along the road from Capua to Rome. This was the largest slave rebellion in history. It heavily damaged Rome and southern Italy. From this point on, whenever there was a small slave rebellion or an event of servile defiance, Spartacus's rebellion was always brought up, as if it could and would happen again. Spartacus's army instilled fear in the people of Rome. More than that, however, Spartacus himself possessed the qualities ancient Romans admired in a leader: strength, intelligence, and military leadership. The story of Spartacus's rebellion gradually spread throughout the world and is remembered even today through forms of media and pop culture. In the end, Spartacus was, and still is, a symbol of hope and freedom, not only to slaves, but to any group of marginalized people trying to fight the system that oppressed them.